As the sun began to rise over Eldridge, a faint light fell upon the Mercer family's home. The creaking of worn floorboards in the humble kitchen was the only thing disrupting the silence within. Levi, the young man of the house, sat at the old wooden table, staring blankly at the remnants of a modest breakfast. His father, burdened by both physical toil and financial strain, hunched over, taking a few bites with a wooden spoon. Etched lines on his face told the story of the hardships he had endured, and the silence among family members filled the room. Sophie, Levi's mother, and the source of joy in the house, moved about the room with a quiet sorrow. The mourning for their eldest son, lost not long ago, had not yet subsided. Levi's attempts at conversation had been swallowed by despair. The silence at the dining table, where each Mercer family member sat lost in their thoughts, was as loud as a scream. Instead of heralding a morning of hope, it felt like a continuation of the burdens carried over from past days. They were unaware that this seemingly ordinary morning marked the beginning of a journey towards the shadows lurking beneath the surface of their lives. Someone had to break the silence in the house, or the entire family would spend the day sitting at the table with vacant eyes, drowning in their thoughts. Sophie, the mother of the house, became the one to put an end to this silence. She first turned to her husband, asking what he would do after breakfast. With a somewhat gruff demeanor, the father replied, "I will do what I always do, work." The same question was then directed at Levi, who, lost in his thoughts, hadn't heard his mother. Holding himself responsible for his brother's death, Levi rose from the table without responding. As he retreated to his room, he became lost among the memories trapped within the walls. Taking a framed picture of his brother, he initiated a conversation. Initially, these dialogues were vague, resembling incomprehensible murmurs. However, over time, he began to sense that these voices emanated from distinct personalities. The inner voices took on a tone and identity different from Levi's own thoughts, growing more distinct and complex in his inner world. While Levi thought he was conversing with his brother's picture, he wasn't alone in his room. Numerous unnoticed inner voices had begun to communicate with him, sharing their feelings and thoughts. Initially unclear and often unintelligible, these voices became more pronounced and understandable during moments of conflict or intense emotional situations. These internal dialogues became increasingly intricate and filled with conflicting thoughts in Levi's mind. While one inner voice provided him with hope, another was filled with dark thoughts. Levi, amidst this internal conflict, became more tense and lost. This situation would eventually lead him towards the early stages of madness. To escape the internal conflicts in his room, Levi decided to go outside without informing his mother. Hoping that a walk in the forest might provide some relief from the mental whirlwind, he set out. During the walk, he felt a sense of relief, as if escaping the chaos in his room. However, the noise of his own thoughts still occupied his mind. Along the way, vague memories of his brother's death passed through his mind. Happy memories of playing in the forest with his brother as a child emerged, only to turn into moments of sadness. Unaware, Levi began a more absent-minded walk in the forest, with irregular and uncertain steps, as if lost in his own thoughts. Finally, in the depths of the forest, he stopped at the spot where his brother had died. The memory in Levi's mind was of the accident that led to his brother's death about a month before. In the midst of fear and sorrow, he had tried to understand what was happening when he realized his brother had died. He had run to inform his family, but this moment had created a fog in his mind. Despite only a short time passing, Levi struggled with conflicting thoughts about how the incident had unfolded. He had difficulty clarifying the details. The fear and panic of that moment hindered a clear understanding of the truth. Over time, memories of his brother's death became lost and muddled in the confusion. As Levi attempted to follow the traces of the past, he confronted the chaos within his inner world. Each recollection revived the helplessness and sorrow of that moment, deepening his internal conflict. The initial signs of madness were reflections of the internal turmoil Levi was experiencing. Levi's footsteps lightly crackled on the damp forest floor. His thoughts oscillated between the loss of his brother and the internal conflict he was experiencing. The profound silence of the forest formed a contrast with the storms raging within him. The warmth of his mother and the stooped posture of his father made the emptiness in the room palpable. Levi sought a clear memory of his brother's death, attempting to lift the veil of fog in his mind. However, with each recollection, he felt the fear and uncertainty of that moment. As he wandered through the forest, Levi tried to strike a balance between bright and dark thoughts. His internal dialogues oscillated between hope and despair, often contradictory and complex. The internal voices provided guidance, but the instructions were usually conflicting and intricate. In the time spent in the forest, Levi grappled with the ghosts of the past and sought internal peace. This journey not only delved into the depths of his inner world, but also demanded confronting the legacy of his family and his brother. Every step felt like entering a labyrinth filled with memories of his brother amidst the trees of the forest. The warmth of his mother, the determination of his father, and the loss of his brother enveloped him like a fabric. As Levi navigated this labyrinth, he aimed to find a balance between making peace with his past and stepping into the future. Levi's internal journey continued amidst the silence of the forest and the gentle touch of the breeze. Perhaps the answers would be found not at the end of his quest, but within the process itself. As Levi challenged his internal struggles, he continued to write his own story. As Levi emerged from the depths of the forest onto the return path, he stepped with the melody of the gentle wind and the murmur of birds. Climbing the slope towards his home, he pondered the silence his family experienced. Meanwhile, his internal voices offered suggestions to maintain the balance he found during his time in the forest. Upon reaching home, he noticed the quiet blending with the delightful aroma emanating from his mother Sophie's kitchen. She was preparing dinner at the table, and his father was reclining in the chair, tired from the day's work. Levi desired to break the silence and communicate with his family. "Smells amazing, Mom. What are you cooking?" Levi asked as he approached his mother. Sophie, with a faint smile, replied, "Chicken sauté, your favorite. Maybe it will whet your appetite." Levi did not reciprocate his mother's smile. "I went for a walk in the forest. Needed some fresh air," he said. His mother, sensing the tension in Levi's tone, responded, "Yes, a walk can be refreshing, but it's good that you're back. We missed you." His father, without lifting his head from the chair, remarked, "Just do what you always do, Levi. You know, getting lost in your own world." Levi's face immediately tensed. "Why do you keep reminding me of that, Dad? You know everything," he said. His father adjusted his glasses and said, "Just reminding you of the truth. A guy should think about what could happen wandering alone in the forest. Maybe you'll learn to take responsibility." Sophie, attempting to diffuse the tension, intervened. "Please, we don't need to reopen this topic. We understand the grief everyone is feeling, but blaming each other is not a solution." Levi, with anger, exclaimed, "But maybe I should feel guilty. Maybe I should have gone in his place." His father turned to Levi with a stern gaze. "He was your brother, Levi. You need to learn to accept responsibilities. We're tired of feeling like everything revolves around you in this family," he said. Sophie, trying to calm both sides, said, "We should respect what everyone feels. Instead of blaming, we should support each other." Levi felt trapped between his family's gazes. The cold conflict at home compounded the turmoil in his internal world. The chilly dialogue in the family, combined with Levi's internal conflict, intensified the weight of the silence at home.